Well, good morning, everyone. Happy New Year and welcome to the California-Nevada chat for Friday, January 13th. My name is Len Dumas, Executive Director for the Northern California section of the PGA of America, and we certainly hope that everyone is doing well. Reports are, of course, many downed trees at facilities, storm drains being overrun and flooding in areas. So please take care of each other, and I hope that you're doing well personally. On the positive side of this, we do have 215% snowpack right now in the Sierra. So that's good news, setting us up later in the year. But there are two sides to each coin, of course. And so there are avalanche concerns, and it's not stopping here in Vacaville. Right now, it's still pouring. And so we've got a long way to go. And of course, please be careful on the roads driving around. We have a tremendous guest today, Mr. Michael Block. Michael, thanks for being with us. Michael is the 2022 PGA of America Player of the Year, and also, hopefully I've got this right, 9-time Southern California Player of the Year, and also 5 in a row. So, Michael, thank you for taking the time. As you mentioned, you've got a big game coming up in about 20 minutes or so. Ken Morton Sr. Ken is a PGA Master Professional and has been a member of the PGA of America since 1964. And as Tom has, Mr. Morton has just influenced all of us, and is tremendously responsible for the growth of the game here in Northern California, particularly in the Sacramento area. And of course, our own Craig Kessler, Director of Government Affairs for the Southern California Golf Association, just to help us make life in California make some sense. But first, our California-Nevada chat team: Tom Addis, Executive Director Emeritus for the Southern California PGA; Nikki Gatch, Executive Director. Nikki, welcome. First time in the chair for the chat. Congratulations to you. Thanks, Executive Director and CEO of the Southern California PGA. And our on-air team, Steve Monday, Bryce Sieber, and Shelby Zell. So for some opening remarks to get us moving, I'll toss it to Executive Director Gatch. Nikki?
Oh, thanks, Len. I appreciate everybody joining us this morning. It's great to join you officially in this chair. This background probably looks familiar. Tom and I flip-flopped offices. So hope everybody's year is off to a great start. And we've got a great first chat of the year lined up for you, as Len alluded to. So we'll jump into that in just a minute. I do want to recognize our section president, who I believe he's 30 days in as of today, I believe, or maybe it was yesterday. Eric Lohman, who's the general manager at Monarch Beach Golf Links and current section president. Eric, are you able to say a few words to the group?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for, I guess, inviting me or encouraging me to participate in these chats. I have only been on a few of these or watched a few of these over the last few years, but I know how important they are to our constituents, both in Southern California and Northern California. And obviously it sounds like Nevada is a part of it too. So just great to be a part of this. And, I just want to welcome and congratulate, obviously, Mr. Block on such a successful run he's had over the last 10 plus years in our section. Couldn't find a nicer gentleman. As we compete with each other and we get to know each other and we like each other or don't like each other, Mike's one of those people who you love to play with or see at an event. And obviously he wins the majority of them, and but he does it with such a style and a class, and he's such a nice guy. And I couldn't think another better person in the world to win or be recognized as the Player of the Year. And so congratulations to Michael for that, and his family and all the people who support him, especially the group at TaylorMade and the guys like that do those sorts of things. And it's just a neat thing for me to be on this with all of you, and obviously Ken Morton Sr., who, I don't know personally. I know of him, and 50 plus years of excellence up in Northern California at Hagen Oaks. And it's just neat to be a part of this, and with everybody such high, not high learners, but high achievers. And thanks for letting me be a part of it and go along for the ride. So congratulations, Nikki, on your new tenure. And I'm done talking, and I'm going to put this mute button and let you all do what you do best. So thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay, Michael, good morning. Great to see you. We know that you're in your truck. I believe you said at Virginia Country Club, getting ready to play. So we'll move. And again, 9-time section champion and 5 in a row. And Michael, we've chatted over the years when you've come up to play at the PPC right here at Bayonet. And if I remember one time, Michael, I think 2017, 2018, maybe you had come from did we lose him? Oh, there you
No,
are. I think it came from the East Coast at US Open qualifying. And if I remember, you took a red eye right to Bayonet. Did I get that right? Yeah.
that's correct. That was 2018.
Yep.
I just shot a billion at Shinnecock in the US Open, and I was lucky enough to miss the cut. So I had the opportunity to come over to the national championship at Bayonet Black Horse that week. And I got about a 2-hole practice round in before the first round. It was the first time that my son Dylan was going to be on my bag. And that event was probably one of the biggest events of my life, because that PPC would qualify you to play in the PGA Championship at Belle Reve Country Club, which was a mile from the house I grew up in St. Louis, and a mile from the high school I attended, and also the college I attended. So that was a huge event. Yeah, I do remember that. I remember talking to you about it, and that was huge. I got into a playoff somehow and got in, and it was a really cool experience. And I've had a lot of great experiences up in Northern California at a lot of great golf courses up there.
All right, I guess that's my cue to take it from here, Michael. Thanks for joining us. Can you hear me?
Yeah, do you have me?
Okay, yeah, we've got you. Thanks,
Okay.
thanks for sharing. I remember that story very well, and you guys were all over Golf Channel. You and Dylan sticking his hand down the animal hole there to find your ball, and I think that ultimately helped get you into the playoff, if I remember right. So
You're exactly right. Heck, I only made the cut because he found that golf ball. If he didn't find that golf ball, I was coming home early. That would have been 2 cuts in a row in less than a week. So yeah, that was a huge day for me.
So speaking of travel, a lot of people probably don't know this, but you shared with us at the section. We all know that this was a huge goal of yours to become, PGA of America Player of the Year. So first, congrats in person. I know we've sent some notes, but such a great accomplishment. We're all so proud of you here at our section. But a lot of people don't know that you made the decision to go back east and spend a couple weeks in Florida to play in the Winter Series, to rack up those points and ensure that nobody would leapfrog you, which maybe has happened in past years. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. And first off, so also Elo, thank you so much. Those very kind words from Eric, one of my best friends in the section for a long, long time. That was very nice of him. But getting back to, so in 2014, I won the national championship. So I had this really good opportunity. I had a great lead to win National Player of the Year, but I did not go to the Winter Series events. And at that point, the points were worth a lot. And Bob Sowards would have to win 2 of the 6 events. And he won 2 of the first 3 and jumped me, which was great playing by him. But I didn't have that opportunity to go down to Florida for that amount of time as a head pro at Arroyo. So I was in second place in 2014. And then the same thing happened to me in 2018. So this year I found out I have a lead, and I let my general manager know that, Matt Donovan, and Jeff Cram, our director of operations. And they walk into my office and they're like, "You're going to Florida and you're going to play well, and you're going to take this home, and you're going to bring home the Player of the Year." And I'm like, okay, I'm doing it. And so I booked the flights literally that day, and I had 3 events. I couldn't stay there for all 6, but I could at least play the first 3. And if I played well in the first 3, I knew I could hold on to the points lead. And I was lucky enough to play well in Florida. It was 82 degrees and sunny and warm, and I loved it. And it happened. And it's been a huge goal of mine for a long, long time. Getting second place in this twice was painful. Originally getting the Player of the Year in the country was never even a thought of mine. And when it happened in 2014 and I got second, it actually became a reality that I could actually do this. And finally, now at age 46 and 2022, I win it, which is a huge thing for me. And it's one of the last check marks I needed off of my career. So I'm okay with just watching my boys play golf here coming up pretty quick. I don't need any more stress in my life.
Well, that's awesome. Well, that leads to a couple questions I had, but we know you've had some lofty goals, and this seemed to be like the pinnacle of your list of goals, and now you've reached that. So my question to you is going to be, what's next? What's the big goal for Michael Block?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, it has a lot more to do with my family, to tell you the truth. At this point, it has more to do with my boys getting out there and playing and doing well. Has more to do with me being the best club professional that I can be. Um, you know, the one thing as far as playing is concerned that I haven't done that I really want to do is make a cut in a major championship.
Hmm.
That's still kind of my deal. Is I want to qualify for another U.S. Open and maybe a couple more PGA championships and give myself that opportunity to make the cut in a major. And after that, I'll tell you what, I might just ball a little bit and call it a day if that happens.
Well, that'd be awesome. And you're giving yourself plenty of opportunity. And I know you've got a couple of tour events coming up. We're fortunate here in Southern California, so our section champion gets an invite into the Amex event out in the desert, which starts next week. And then our player of the year gets a spot in the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines. So with you being both in both those categories as our section champion for the third time this year, and of course our 9-time player of the year, you'll be teeing it up twice with the big boys. So we're excited for you, and we'll be out there rooting you on. And walk us through a little bit of your preparation for that. And is that any different than how you would prepare for a section championship or the winter series? Do you do anything different?
I try not to. I used to grind too hard, and I'd hit too many bunker shots, and I would injure myself, and I would do things that I normally wouldn't do. And I'm actually known a lot for barely even warming up and then just going to the tee, because it's not like it's actually more of a mental thing for me, where if I haven't hit any bad shots, I don't have any bad mojo going to the golf course. So if I go to the drive range and I'm not hitting it so great, my confidence level could sink. And so I'm not a grinder. I'm not a guy that you could ask the guys at Arroyo. I don't hit golf balls. They know if I'm hitting any golf balls that I have a big event probably the next day. And that's it. I'm not a guy that's out there grinding at all. But going into these events, yes, I'm trying to play. Today I got a great, it's like a small PGA Tour event just broke out at Virginia Country Club this morning. And I was lucky enough to be invited to come play by the guys out here. And this is a great experience that I'll have today that will prepare me for next week at the American Express. Obviously, being a member of the Southern California PGA, it allows the opportunity to be able to qualify for the Farmers and the American Express, 2 tour events, which not every section has any events, so there's a lot of sections out there in the country that do not have that opportunity at all. We are lucky enough to have 2 PGA Tour events. I was just playing with a couple of guys in Florida that are in sections that don't have any events, maybe just a Corn Ferry event to qualify for. And I was trying to talk to these guys, and I'm like, come out to Northern California. I literally told them Northern California has like 3 or 4 tour starts that you can possibly have if you work in the Northern California section. I mean, that's amazing. And to have that opportunity. And these guys were like, you know what, that's a good idea. They're going to move out from, New Jersey and these areas over there where, they have no opportunities. So it's what we have in Northern California, Nevada, and Southern California as far as PGA Tour starts is something that is unbelievable and should really get a lot of players out there and a lot of golf professionals out there to pull their clubs out and practice and play and get ready for their section championships and section events.
Yeah, it's certainly a great opportunity, and we're very fortunate. You alluded to this a little bit about your ownership and your leadership team at Arroyo. I mean, you know, let's not forget, you're a great player and great competitor, but you're also the head golf professional at Arroyo Trabuco, a very, very busy golf course in Orange County, and you've got a lot of responsibilities at the club. Sounds like, you know, you've got obviously a very, very supportive ownership and leadership team that allows you to do what you like to do. And want to do, because I know that's going to be ultimately a reflection on the club, which, you know, they're very proud of, as they should be. Kind of that buzzword that we're all hearing about and talking about is that work-life balance. Can you talk a little bit about that? Obviously, the importance of having the support of ownership and your bosses to be able to do what you love and balance golf and your family life and your work responsibilities.
Yeah, without a doubt, without the support of obviously the management, the support of our assistants, the staff there, I would have no opportunity. I would not have this opportunity whatsoever. Obviously, if I didn't have the support of my wife and my kids, I would not have this opportunity. I'm lucky enough to have both of those. But I also feel like that's something where if you're a pro that wants to have those, you need to work hard and you need to find the right place and work your butt off I didn't play golf for pretty much 8 years when we opened up the club in 2004. The only time I ever played was in the Tuesday morning skins games that we had with the employees there at the club. After the club is set and ready to rock and roll and we have it in place, that gave me the opportunity to start playing a lot more and become the player in the section that I have been. And so that's been huge. You know, I don't know. I mean, for me, everyone's always like, how do I, play in all these things and do what you do? I'm like, well, you have to go to a club and you have to stick your foot in the ground and you don't go anywhere else. You stay there. Don't just look for the next opportunity that's going to pay you $10,000 more. I've never done that. I've never, ever done that in the over 18 years I've been at the club. I said, you know what? This is my place. I love it. I love Orange County. I love this golf course. I love the ownership. I love the management. I love everything about it. And I really do. And the big thing about it too is I could never just play golf. I could never just do spreadsheets and payroll. I could never just teach. I could never, ever do any of those full time. I really couldn't. Yeah. But this job that I have has the opportunity to break it up where I do each of those at about 20% of the time. And I love it. And so if you give me that 5 different parts of the golf, being a golf professional, it's the best thing in the world. And it's the best job in the world. And I have a huge smile on my face every time I come into the club.
Yeah, that's so important, and you're fortunate, and I know you recognize that. But that there's, it's the importance of knowing how to balance your life properly and know what makes you tick, and then you can be the best for everybody around you. Who you're responsible to at the club, and certainly who you're responsible for at home. Let's talk about home, right? So all these accolades, and let's not forget that you're also the husband of Val and the father of Dylan and Ethan. And it's been fun for us to not only watch your boys grow and mature, but also you and how you've embraced this role of father and father of 2 young men that are great players and have big goals, I'm sure, of their own. Both of them have played on our junior tour. I know Ethan's still playing. I think Dylan's a little bit old now. Has graduated out, but maybe share with us, their journey and how either they've motivated you or you're now motivating them, or probably both.
Yeah, initially it was definitely I motivated them. They saw, they would come to all these tour events as little guys, and they saw the opportunities and just being in that lifestyle, and they loved it. And I'm so fortunate that they both fell in love with the game of golf. Yeah. They both obviously started out. I wanted them in every sport possible when they're little guys. But for some reason, they've both gravitated at the end of it, about age 13, they both really went hardcore into golf, which is, a dream of mine, but I definitely didn't push it at all. Yeah. It's been a great opportunity. Obviously they played in both the Toyota Tour Cup, Players Tour. They both started in the JDL, the JDT and everything else in the section, which has been fantastic. Dylan wants to turn pro. Ethan wants to play D1. Which is crazy, but it's cool, and they're both going to do it. It's been fabulous that they're able to. As a father, I get to spend pretty much every day of my life with my kids. The second they are done with school, they head to the golf course and they go to the range and they hit balls and they and they putt and chip, and of course I'm there and I try to spend as much time as I can with both of them. The older one gets a little jealous of me spending too much time with the younger one and stuff like that. It's pretty fun. But just the opportunity that I've had to be able to spend the amount of time I have. And now my wife has even started playing golf, Val, because she realized that she wasn't going to see us ever again if she didn't start playing golf. So now Val plays more golf than both of us, all of us combined. Yeah. I had to join another club just for her. It's been a great block family golf experience for sure. And I couldn't be any happier for it.
That's awesome. Thank you. Well, that's it for me, Michael, but we do have one special person that has one question for you, Mr. Addis. Do you remember how to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I can't get my camera to work, but that's okay. That's probably better for everybody.
Oh, you had it.
Morning. Give us a little bit of an idea, Michael, about your trip that you were fortunate enough to play in the PGA Cup matches for, I believe, the second time, maybe the third. You were a leader in those matches, but one of the key things was that you made quite an effort, and I think it tied into your Player of the Year, to get to our section championship. So maybe in the little bit of time we have left, you can give us a little bit of story there in regards to how much that meant, that whole experience.
Well, I'll tell you what, if any PGA member out there has the opportunity ever to be able to be a member of the PGA Cup team, represent the United States versus Great Britain, Ireland, you have to do it. It's the best experience I probably ever had in the game of golf. It's a team atmosphere. You've got the American flag on your sleeve. You've got the captains who are the dignitaries of PGA of America there with you. And a big goal of mine was to be able to play in that at some point, because the first one I played in was in San Jose, California. And so that was cool, but it was just north of where I live. This one just happened to be in London, in Surrey, England, at Fox Hills Country Club this year, or actually last year end of 2022. And when I found out I made the team, it was absolutely unbelievable. And the experience that I had over there, along with my wife, Val, was crazy. All the wives got along great. The players, the camaraderie, we're still on this text chain between the team constantly. I mean, the experience is absolutely unbelievable, and the opportunity that PGA of America gives us, and honestly, the money they put into it and the experience. I mean, they treat us as if we were on the Ryder Cup team to a T, from the bag to the flight over there to the team meeting, the team atmosphere, the team room, everything about it. You would swear that you were on the Ryder Cup team. And obviously none of us are going to be on the Ryder Cup team, but if you can be on the PGA Cup team, I'm telling you, it's as close as it's ever going to be to that. And that is something that I'll tell you what, if I can ever be on another PGA Cup team, and well, think about this. We all sat in the team room one day and we all agreed, all of the players on our team agreed that we'd rather play on another PGA Cup team than play in the PGA Championship. So to play in a major. So it's bigger than a major. That's how everyone takes it, because you're playing with all of usually the guys you're playing against in these national championships, they're all on your team and they're all your buddies. And it's your goal is just to bring home the cup and to beat Europe, which is awesome. And we did this year. Captain Susie Whaley was amazing. Yeah. And it was crazy. It was such a good time. And thanks, DA, for mentioning that.
Well, Michael hasn't said it, but he was the key and the leader in the victory by getting a key point and getting things stimulated. So congratulations. How you had quite the journey to get back over to play the section championship, which did have a little bit of a piece in your national player of the year. Maybe fill us in on that just a little bit, because I know you have to go.
So I was unable to attend the final ceremony at the PGA Cup. So I was not able to attend the party, which most people know I'm the one that's going to be running the party. But I was unable to do that because the section championship for Southern California started the next day. So I played the Sunday match singles. I was the first one out. I literally left. The matches weren't even done. I had to get in a car, go to London Heathrow, direct flight to LAX, arrived at midnight Sunday night, and then teed off at I think 12 o'clock at El Niguel the next day on Monday for the section championship. And I had to have PGA board of approval just for me to be able to miss the final dinner and ceremonies, which Jim Richardson from Riviera, he called me, and I was out teaching one day, and he goes, "Michael, I got great news," and he let me know that I was going to be able to skip out on the dinner and come and play in the section championship, which I knew was a huge part. I had to win it. I absolutely had to win it in order to win the National Player of the Year. And when I was able to pull off that win at El Niguel, I knew I had pretty much sealed the deal at that point.
Pretty cool story. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, TA.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you sharing. Appreciate your time. We know you're busy. Go take some money off of Patrick. Please be sure to thank him again on behalf of the section, his support of our junior tour and his Toyota Tour Cup series. He's been amazing and a great supporter. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on tour.
I hope so. Yeah, actually you will. Cool. Yeah.
Thank you, at least Nikki, for 2 weeks.
And congrats again. I love the it looks like you're in a movie here. You have such a better background in cinematography than I have going in my truck right now. It looks great though.
Thank you. Have fun today.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Lynn, back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Have a great day. And thanks for everything.
You got it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Ken Morton Sr. And Ken is a PGA Master Professional and Chief Executive Officer for Morton Golf. I'm just going to read one sentence from his bio and then talk about some awards, and then we'll let Mr. Morton fill in the rest. Ken is actually a Sacramento native, and at age 11 started caddying at Del Paso Country Club. And over the years, and Ken, I'm going to let you fill in the over the years part, introduced to the National Hall of Fame, the PGA 2005, National PGA Professional of the Year 1998, two-time Merchandiser of the Year, National Junior Golf Leader, National at the Player Development Award for PGA Education, California Writers Golf Person of the Year, Golf Digest Magazine, Top 72 Most Important People in the Golf Industry, Honorary Chair of the PGA Senior Tour Gold Rush Classic, National Advisory Council for Titleist Acushnet. Very recently, and very proud of this, a Northern California PGA induction into our Section Hall of Fame in 2019. And most recently, the National Golf Foundation Graphis Award last year, now in 2022. So Ken, thank you for joining us this morning. And as I said, I'll let you fill in some of the parts. Now, please tell us about, you've been at Hagen Oaks for over 60 years and have retired somewhat and are still active in the operations, as you mentioned, when needed. So talk about the early days at Hagen Oaks and then with Mr. Lopresti, and how'd you get here?
Well, it has been a long time. This is March 1st will be my 65th year here at Hagen Oaks. It started way before that when I was 11 years old and caddying at the Del Paso Country Club. And I was very fortunate at the age of about 13 that Mr. Frank Minch Sr., then the head professional at Del Paso, took me under his wing and began to give me free lessons on Saturday mornings and developed me as a junior golfer. And so that was a total treat for me, because earlier in my life, my dad was blind and we didn't really have any money, and we were very poor, and caddying gave me money to be able to buy clothes and stuff for school. And so that was a really special time. And for a guy like Mr. Minch to take me under his wing was irreplaceable. We all have to have mentors. So he was my first mentor. And then there was a gentleman there by the name of Vince Crockett, who was a very expert club repair person. And he taught me how to replace shafts and put in inserts and refinish clubs. And Mr. Lopresti needed a guy to do club repairs in 1958. And then they were expanding the golf course from 18 holes to 36 holes. And he needed someone that had an experience of club repair. And Mr. Minch told him that he had the guy. And so Tom Lopresti hired me. And within just a few years after that, going through as a golf instructor and helping him run the golf shop, he and I became partners in 1971. And we were partners for 20 years. And at that point, I took over the operations here at Hagen Oaks and have been here ever since. 2001, I took in 4 partners, which would be Terry Daubert, our president, and Mr. Mike Woods, who's the director of golf here at Hagen Oaks now, and then my son, Ken Morton Jr., and son, Tom Morton. And so that's kind of the evolution of my career. And we've been running now all the city golf courses since 2001.
Yeah, Ken, what's happened, as I've mentioned in the opening remarks, you're so responsible for influencing all of us, and certainly the Sacramento area. Ken, talk about Say Golf, Sacramento Area Youth Golf.
Well, it was interesting. In 1983, I had 2 boys who were interested in playing golf, and we really didn't have any kind of golf place for kids to play golf. So then at the same time, Proposition 13 came along, and they were going to eliminate high school golf, which had a big impact on me. And so I got together with the then head pro Les Streeper and we created this 501c3 called Say Golf, Sacramento Area Youth Golf Association. And the whole idea was to save high school golf. So I can remember that we got about 600 people with green shirts into a high school district meeting and said that we were not only willing to keep high school golf, but we would help supplement the coaches for the schools to keep high school golf during that time. And with so many people, that really allowed us to get that started. And then once we got into the high school thing, we began to realize now we need to create programs to be able to have kids ready to play in high school teams. And then we created Little Linkers and a few other junior programs to create more interest in youth golf. And it began to flourish into the Special Olympic program, and it began to go into creating a Say Golf Junior Tour, which is now the First Tee Junior Tour, and to be able to create this stepping stone of developing kids so that they were prepared to be able to play high school and then possibly even college golf. So that was quite a thing. In the year 2000, the Say Golf became one of the first 3 chapters of the First Tee in existence. So that took us to another level, because then we got national recognition and began to get some financial support to be able to grow programs even more.
And as this all developed, how did the Superstore come about? Because the Superstore is legend, and everyone says you need to visit Hagen Oaks. You need to see the Superstore.
Well, actually, it came about accidentally. It was interesting. One of another highlights in my career has been the city of Sacramento. They've been really good to me and to our company, and originally to Mr. Tom Lopresti. But what happened is we used to have a thing called Golf Expo, and it really started out to be a weekend event. Then it moved into a week-long event, and then we rented big tents, and it lasted a month. And little by little, it became about half of our annual revenue. Well, in this one particular year, we had a huge amount of stuff in the tent. And during the night, we had a storm similar to the ones we've been having now, up to 70-mile-an-hour winds. It blew the tent down and ruined everything in the tent. And all my entire life savings was in that tent. And fortunately, because we kept really good records and because we really had a history, the insurance company took care of all of the merchandise and also the income protection during a period of time. And it provided us the resources to be able to go back to the city, because our insurance was then canceled. And so we no longer could do a tent sale out in the parking lot. So we went to the city, and they allowed us to then begin to build the first dimension of the super shop. And so our Golf Expo thing that lasted just a short period of time then became a year-round event. And that really took us to a new level. And little by little, we've grown now to where we have 15,000 square feet of display space. And we'll probably even add on a little bit in another year or so.
Ken, just amazing. And so everyone knows, there's a main building, which is the main Superstore. And then over via the golf shop, there are shoes over there. So if you haven't been there, you need to be there. And Ken, are you still, during the summer, is the practice range still open 24 hours or a good part into the morning?
Well, we were open 24 hours for probably 15 years. And then during COVID, we reduced it till midnight because that began to be a problem. But now we're up to about 2 o'clock in the morning again, and then we reopen about 6 o'clock in the morning. And yes, we've actually added the Top Golf experience to the driving range, and so it's doing extremely well.
It's amazing to see that, Ken, all 52 stalls outfitted with the Top Tracer technology. So congratulations on that. And then Ken, as we move along, the thinking, and now it's been in place for a great number of years, the Morton Golf Foundation.
Well, the Morton Golf Foundation, once the First Tee really got up and running, and then we had this rotating board then little by little, I was off the board. And the first tee really focuses on introducing the game to middle schools and high schools mainly. And then it still does the junior tour. And so it's really is not as much of a development piece as what we had planned on doing originally. So when we created the Morton Golf Foundation, because we actually now give about $250,000 a year back into the game by helping minority associations like the Latino Junior Golf Association and the Northern California Minority Golf Association. We give money to grants for kids that really can't afford to play competitively or even buy equipment or take lessons. We give money for college scholarships, and we also give money to the Wounded Warriors and to the PGA Hope programs. We give money to a variety of different disabled programs throughout the community to be able to grow the game and make it open to people from all walks of life. I think the more we can do in the game to be able to introduce people from all walks of life, the better the reputation of our game will be. What I have found interesting about the game of golf is that we raise more money through golf than all the other sports added together for charities. And what's interesting is in the past, we've really never raised any money for our own sport and to introduce people to our own sport. So I think the combination of with the First Tee, Morton Golf Foundation, and then our Northern California Golf Association Foundation, all of those are ways to be able to diversify the game and bring people into the game from all walks of life.
And it's working, Ken, big time, and you can't stop it at this point. So thank you, as you mentioned, for the generous contributions to our Northern California PGA Foundation in light of PGA Hope. But Ken, let's talk about the main event for the foundation fundraiser, which is Golf and Guitars. And how did that all get started? Because that is just a 2.5-day rock concert at Hagen Oaks.
Yeah, well, I had a celebration here of one of my years. I think it probably was our 50th year here. And then what my son, Ken Morton Jr. said, well, what would you like? And I said, well, you like Western music, and maybe we could bring together music and the day for golf. And so they put this whole thing together, and that really created the Golf and Guitars event. And we've had as many as 3,000 people in one night come to the event. And then we have a big pro celebrity, or actually amateur celebrity, with the musicians that played in the concert. And we probably net anywhere from $80,000 to $120,000 a year, which really is a big benefactor in helping the Morton Golf Foundation.
Ken, one thing, we host a number of events at Hagen Oaks, and we're very grateful for that. But over the years, getting to know everyone, you're always so open to an idea. And here's something new. Let's call the Hagen Oaks team. Let's call Mr. Morton, and it's let's try. Sure, let's try. And one that comes to mind, Ken, and you'll remember some others, is foot golf. I think you were right out there leading the charge with foot golf. And at first, and possibly, I'm sure still, there is some play, but that was a pretty big deal when that first came out.
Well, it was a big deal, and it is another way to attract people who don't play golf to the golf course. And I can remember after we had been doing it about 90 days, this senior woman, probably in her 70s or so, came in and thanked us for the foot golf thing. And I'm thinking, well, why would this be an issue with her? And she said, well, I could not connect with my grandkids. And now they can go out and play foot golf, and I can play regular golf, and we can be together. And that just gives you an idea of what something like foot golf does. Now, at the time, the game was kind of sliding, and the interest in golf was really stagnant. So we were trying new things in order to do it. I would say that even after all the settling in of foot golf, it's still a $30,000 to $40,000 a year revenue source for our golf course. And so it does everything you could possibly ask. It introduces new people to the facility and the sport. And it's been a steady, nice revenue producer for us.
Well, we appreciate, Ken, and are grateful for the openness to try new ideas. Ken, I would love for you to spend a couple of minutes to tell the story that you told during your Northern California PGA Hall of Fame induction in 2019, and that was yourself and Mr. Mancinella as junior golfers, and a very particular chauffeur that day that took you from Sacramento to San Francisco.
I think we were about 13 at the time, and I somehow had qualified to play in a tournament at the Olympic Club, and I'd never been out of town in my entire life. And so when I get all done and I'm informed that I qualified to play in this tournament in San Francisco, I really didn't even know how to get there. My parents couldn't drive me. And so I run into this kid, Steve Mancinella, and I said, and he qualifies. And I said, so Steve, how are you going to get down there? And he said, oh, he says, I'll tell you what, he says, my dad's going to drive me down there. He says, you want to come along? He says, we'll go down there and spend the night and play golf at the tournament, and then he'll bring us back. And I said, oh, that's great. So anyway, his dad drives us down, and all of a sudden, I mean, I'm 13 years old and I'm out in the middle of San Francisco with Steve Mancinella, and I all by ourselves. His dad drives home. So, you know, we're staying in a hotel, and it's really kind of way over my head, but Steve makes you feel real comfortable, and so things were going along. So the next morning I get up and I got my clubs, and we're out in the street in front of the hotel, and this guy comes in this beautiful Lincoln Continental convertible, and gets out and picks us up, puts our clubs in the car, and I looked over to Steve as we're sitting in the back seat, and I said, Steve, this guy really looks familiar. I said, you know, is he a golfer? He said, Jesus criminy, Ken, this is Ken Venturi. And I said, Ken Venturi? He says, oh yeah, he says, he's a personal friend of my dad, and so he's going to drive us over the golf course. So now this is my first time out of town, and here Ken Venturi in this big white Lincoln convertible drives right up by the first tee of the Olympic Club. And while we're getting out of the car, he's out getting the clubs out of the trunk, carrying the clubs up to the tee for us, like he's our caddy. And I mean, we getting all this attention with all these junior golfers. So that was my first experience of being out of town. And then as you got to know Steve Mancinella over the years, this is just a small part about who he is. He knows everybody and does everything. You know, he's an amazing guy. And so we've been friends since we've been 13 years old. It was a special friend.
Yeah, Ken, that is just an incredible story. And if it was, you know, roll it forward to 2022, everybody would have had their cameras out and videoed it. But what an experience for your first time out of Sacramento.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ken, I mean, just an incredible career. One or two highlights, please. And I'm sure that one of the highlights is now, you know, as you have retired, turning the operation over to Tom and Ken Jr. and Mike. Of course, you got to be very, very proud of that, I'm sure.
I am, but I would be remiss in saying that really a big part of my evolution as a golf pro started in 1988 when the PGA asked me to run a business school 1, and then the next year a business school 2, and then I was asked to be on the faculty with guys like my friend Tom Addis, and we did head pro training seminars for many years, and that got me involved in a lot of PGA things that I was involved in to help with the development of apprentice programs and the certification and PGA master professional status, and that whole experience changed my life. The PGA of America is very responsible for any development that I've had through my career, because as Tom Addis will probably state as well, what we did was we worked with the best of the best for many, many decades. And over those decades, we were able to share ideas back and forth between each other that we could take back to our operations. And so the PGA of America is a major part of Ken Morton Sr., and I can never thank them enough for that. And answering your question, I could have never dreamt up the life that I've had in golf from when I was a kid. I mean, I've just kind of evolved over time. And then to be able to have my two sons involved in my company and to be able to leave something for them, as well as Terry Daubert, our president, and Mike Woods, and that they all have a really successful career and life in the game of golf. That's about as good as things could be for Ken Morton Sr. I couldn't ask for more. I mean, I couldn't have dreamt up or made a movie of what's happened in my life.
Ken, I'm glad you met this, Tom. I'm glad you mentioned the 70s and 80s and the business schools, because that is when our long friendship was established. And I just want to say how much I appreciate that, how much I appreciate your mentorship over these so many years, and what you meant to the PGA. And I'll never forget all the business schools that we did do, and really the start of many, many other things, as you mentioned, whether it be the GPTP program, which turned into the current program. Basically, there's been some changes, of course, but and you've never stopped in the advance of business. And I think that's evidenced by what you've done at Hagen Oaks for 65 years or however long it's been. And most recently, adopting even the highest in technology. You mentioned Top Tracer. That just shows how much of a leader you are, and your sons as well in this business. And congratulations for that. And thank you for being a mentor to me. I know we've worked a lot together. But more importantly, thanks for being a friend and keeping on the good things that you do. So thanks for that.
Well, thank you, Tom. I cherish the relationship we've had all these years.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Len.
Of course, Tom, having you both here is just very, very special for all of us. And Ken, thank you. I mean, thank you for your time this morning, and thank you for all that you do for us here in Northern California. As I mentioned, you never say no. We have PGA Hope programs at Hagen Oaks. We have drive, chip, and putt programs at Hagen Oaks. We have Junior League championship qualifiers and finals at Hagen Oaks, and on and on and on. And you're our go-to, you know that. So Ken, thank you for what you've done for us as an association, what you've done for us as a section, and what you've done for each of us individually. And the best to you and Kathy and the family.
Thank you, Lynn. I want to close by stating that it's impossible to do something for others where you don't gain something from it in the long run. I mean, every relationship you build is a learning experience to help you grow as a person. And thank you for allowing me to be in this chat morning. Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, stay safe, Ken. Thank you. Okay. Cool. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, on to our conscience, Mr. Craig Kessler, the Director of Government Affairs for the Southern California Golf Association. Craig, interesting how it all works, right? We have we had a water summit in Southern California in November, I think it was. We had one here in Northern California about a month ago. And now it's pouring, and the talk is that we can't capture it. And at the same time, we have a 215% snowpack, but yet are concerned with avalanches. So it's not the only topic on the table, but certainly a big one. And I know you're in the Coachella Valley just 2 days ago, perhaps with another conversation about water. Yeah.
Yes, was there yesterday for, actually Friday, Wednesday, you're right, time flies. Where more than 160 persons gathered at a desert-specific golf and water summit that was very, very successful. But before I dive into that, I want to thank you, and I want to thank Nikki. It's really an honor to come on after Ken Morton Sr., because I'm referred to as an advocate, but there's no better advocate for the game of golf and all that it brings to communities than Ken Morton Sr. And there's really no greater municipal facility that embodies the community asset that we always talk about, that municipal golf courses aspire to. So thank you, Len and Nikki, for putting me on after Ken Morton Sr. And thank you, Ken Morton Sr., for all the things you've done for the game for literally for decades.
Thank
And as someone who's also got a little white hair on the top, it is fantastic to hear persons with white hair on the top who are always thinking not about yesterday, but about tomorrow. And I think that as long as you keep doing that, you're going to keep helping golf and a lot of people. And you too are going to get a lot out of it, as you just suggested. So thanks for that. A year ago this time, Len remembers this well, others on this call, we were in a total panic because we were in the throes of trying to react to a 2-year bill rush called AB 672 that would have, put places like Hagan Oaks and others put in the crosshairs of being topics of subsidies to developers and cities to turn them into housing complexes. We beat it back in that January, and the author brought it back in another form in AB 1910. And we were off to another 3 or 4 months of fighting the bill. Ultimately, as everyone on this call knows, we succeeded. The good news at the moment is that I think we succeeded enough in indicating that this was not a very good idea in terms of public policy to chill that bill coming back in another form. Its author left the legislature. So far on this 13th day of the month in January, there's a long way to go, another 30 days to go before the period closes for the filing of 2023 bills. We haven't heard anything of that kind. We are tracking all the various all the bills that change the Surplus Land Act, which affects the golf community. And we're following all those bills that are coming in droves now that obviate local control over zoning, that obviate things like the California Environmental Quality Act, all in the interest of expediting, which I think everyone understands the acute need to build housing. But ultimately, those things can spill over. So we're tracking those things. And I hearken back that literally the day that AB 1910 died was May 19th. I remember it well. And to give you an idea of the way things go in golf, Kevin Fitzgerald and I, the next day, attended a large meeting of Los Angeles City golf courses, those that are served by Los Angeles Water and Power, because we had a June 1st conference call with LA Water Power and Conservation, because they were under a mandate from their water wholesaler, Metropolitan Water District, to come up with immediate 35% reductions. So that was sort of the first shoe to drop in in response to the third year, or actually a 3-year period that's the driest in history, or at least our history of California. I'm always amused when we talk about the driest records when we're dealing with the weather or geology, because our records are 150, 160 years old. And the earth doesn't speak in terms of 150 to 60 years, 150, 60,000 maybe it speaks in, but those kinds of tranches of time. And from that point forward, we've been dealing entirely with all issues dealing with drought, a little more on the southern part of the state and the northern part of the state, because we're very dependent. Parts of Southern California are totally dependent on the State Water Project. There are others that are dependent upon the Colorado River Basin, and there's others that have the benefit of having access to both. So we've been going down this road for a long period of time. I'm happy to report that we worked because of 10 or 12 or 13 years of working with Los Angeles Water and Power and coming up with tweaks to their conservation ordinances that make it very possible for the golf community to meet all the mandates thus far that have come down, even including this latest 35% cutback, in a way that's perfectly consistent with sound agronomy and sound business practice. And I think everyone on this call understands the importance of that. Yes, we can meet the water mandates, but we have to meet them in such a way that we can keep the doors open. So that drought emergency has been extended, or was extended in December to all of Southern California. And right now, as we're getting incredible relief from Mother Nature, and that's a good thing, because if we had had a 4th year like the last three, we'd be looking at probably most of the states at tees and greens. And some of the ordinances speak in terms of critical areas, but I don't know what a critical area is other than tees and greens. We'd have to have a conversation about that. And so this has given us a good deal of relief. If it doesn't snow at all anymore in the Sierra snowpack, and that snow is on its way later this afternoon, we have, if it stopped now on April 1st, we would have slightly above an average year. The odds of it's clearly not going to stop before April 1st, as there's at least another two atmospheric rivers coming in. So we're going to have a great year, and that's going to give us relief. It's going to give us a reprieve. It's going to give us time to catch our breaths. It's going to give the 2023 US Open of the Los Angeles Country Club the ability to be in no more than level 3 drought per the LA City ordinance, which means that they'll be able to cope just fine. So that's good, but we need to understand that for example, the Colorado Basin has not been as the beneficiary as much snow and rain as the Sierra snowpack, and that as things have dried out and warmed over the last 20 years, we're still in a long-term drought. We have no idea. It's very clear that we think we understand climate, and we don't understand how the weather relates to the overall climatic conditions. But I'm still waiting for someone to answer the following questions. If we're still in a La Nina, and La Nina is supposed to be a dry year because high pressure builds in over our area of the country, that high pressure collapsed a long time ago, and yet that seems. So it tells me that there's a lot more we don't know about climate and weather and what's going to happen than we actually understand. Keep that in mind moving forward. We don't know what's going to happen, but we know thus far Mother Nature is in the process of bailing us out. To give you a few statistics on that, so we're right now in the third consecutive year where the state water project allocation has been somewhere between 0 and 5%. That's unprecedented, which means that despite all the rain and all the snow and some of the fill in the reservoirs that's certainly occurring, they're still well below average capacity. And when you look at the Colorado Basin, the two huge reservoirs, Lake Mead and Lake Powell, which each one of them is about the size of 8 California reservoirs. They're really enormous, and they serve 40 million customers in the Southwest and 7 states, or actually 3, Arizona, Nevada, and Southern California in total, and Mexico as well. In 2000, they were at 95% of capacity. When we entered the big 2014 to 2016 drought, they were roughly at 50% capacity. Right now, despite all the precipitation, they sit at roughly 25% capacity, and they fill very, very slowly. So yes, we're getting relief, but longer term, we're literally in the land of permanent drought. The good news on that is I think the golf community has been very resilient. We've learned a lot of things. I know I'm much more familiar with Southern California, but to a certain degree, ironically, more UC Riverside projects and experiments actually go on in the northern part of the state than the southern part of the state, which concerns us not a whit in Southern California. We benefit equally wherever those kinds of plots and experiments occur. But the truth of the matter, as we continue to invest in research and continue to be more resilient and do sensors and explore new ways of doing things, I think we're going to continue. I know we have to continue to reduce the water footprint of the golf community. One of the interesting things that came out of a bit of the panic that ensued in Los Angeles last summer, when suddenly Los Angeles Water and Power was faced with having to cut back 35% of its volume of water consumption in order to avoid being fined by their wholesale, the Metropolitan Water District, I asked that they do a run of all the potable golf customers they had, compare the average usage from 2005 to 2009, and then compare that to 2021, which is the driest year on record. So it would be a pretty dispositive comparison, and discovered, much to my delight, I knew the golf industry was using a lot less water in 2021 than 2005 to 2009. but it turned out to be a lot less than I had thought and a lot less than Water and Power thought. And the reason I point that out is because suddenly the panic cleared, the clouds cleared, and because of that record, the water providers like LADWP or CBWD in the desert have great respect and confidence in the Gulf community's ability that when, unlike some other sectors, I'm not going to name them, that talk a good conservation game, Gulf has actually been delivering a good conservation game. And since they have the billing records, they can verify it. And they're the ones that verify it. Fine, a guy like me goes out and says these things, but the data will confirm whether or not what I'm saying is true or not. The fact that it turned out to be truer than I thought, the leader, I don't think the leader will mind me explaining. Wilshire Country Club used 45% less water in 2021 than they used in the average from 2005 to 2009. The reason we use those 5 years is because in 2010, we adopted changes in the ordinance in consultation and collaboration with the city of Los Angeles, and a whole different paradigm of dealing with drought restrictions moving forward. And our argument was that those things created the incentives to conserve and disincentives to do the obvious. And we've always counseled that in a panic, and policymakers get in a panic when times get tough and they think the spigot is going to get turned off. We pointed out, do not abandon what's been working for some short-term goal of hitting a number, because the ultimate goal are those things that are long-term that are going to reduce water footprints. So as we move forward in the southern part of the state, whether it's Coachella Valley Water District, Desert Water Agency, as you're correct, Len, was down there the last few days, or whether it's in Los Angeles or Ventura with Callegas or many of these providers, they have come to understand that we are a reliable partner. If you work with us on long-term salves to some of these problems, we can deliver. And I'd have to add, we've also made clear that we understand we have to continue to deliver. These are not laurels that the Gulf community tends to rest on, that look how well we've done. They're laurels we hope to use as a springboard to give ourselves confidence and to give the policymakers confidence that that we can continue to deliver more and more and more, because I trust that everyone understands that everyone's favorite word is aridification. I think gaslighting was everyone's favorite word last year. This year, it'll be aridification. And that means nothing more than we understand it's warmer and it's drier. And that means a few things. It means even an average precipitation year in 2023 is going to yield much less runoff from the snowpack. It's going to yield less penetration of the aquifers. That's just the way Mother Nature operates. So we need to have above average yields in precipitation in order to get simply the average yields that we used to get some years ago. So we're into tougher circumstances. And we've made clear that we want to continue to be 1,000 facilities strong by the middle of the century. And I think we want to be more than that by the middle of the century. And continue to provide this great recreational amenity to the citizens of California, then we're going to have to get about doing that. Some of the downside of that is clearly it raises the expenses of producing a golf product, which is problematic. I mean, you don't need to be a business genius or an economist to understand that as the price of delivering a product goes up, there are less persons who are able to avail themselves of what it is you're selling. So that's just been that there's nothing we can do about that. That's why we call it an existential problem. And I guess I'll finish off this a little bit. And I've been a little bit around the map. I've got my fingers crossed that there won't be any legislation that totally distracts from this. And I don't think there will be any legislation on a statewide level that's going to, other than positive legislation, that's going to fund rebate programs and is going to fund water storage programs and so forth. And the other thing that's come up, and it certainly came up in detail in the Coachella Valley this week, is that we have to remember that as part of the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed by Congress in December, there's $4 billion set aside really for the Southwest, what's called reclamation states, which means Arizona, Nevada, and California, to fund projects which lead to long-term conservation. Right now, that money has been passed by Congress. It's been appropriated. And within sometime between March and May, the details of how to avail oneself or ourselves of it will come out. And I think it behooves the golf community to be ready to hit the ground running to try to take up some of that money, at least for our sector. Agriculture will clearly get the bulk of it, and for obvious and valid reasons. But again, at least the golf is a sufficient portion of the economy that it too will probably merit some of this access as well. So there's some positive signs to this as well. So with that around the table, I don't know if I raised any questions or I shed any light on the situation. I just wanted to point out that juxtaposition last year from May 19th, literally to May 20th, having to go to a large meeting in Los Angeles of golf courses, trying to get ready for a major conference call with their water provider to come to terms with how we were going to work together to meet those 35% cutbacks. There hasn't really been any rest or relaxation, and our bandwidth is a little bit strained. But I guess I'll conclude by saying that if there's one thing that the last couple of years have taught me, whether the issue is independent contracting or what we call down here the Public Golf Endangerment Act, or many persons thought, I get asked questions from the media all the time. So how many golf courses have closed because of the water restrictions? And of course, the answer is 0 so far. But with the proviso that if Mother Nature is really cruel to us, that will happen and it's unavoidable. So we've been resilient, and if we continue to remain resilient and on our toes, I think we will be just fine. And so that's why I call myself sometimes a cockeyed optimist. And then I'm counting on many persons on this call to actually make me accurate rather than inaccurate. So with that, again, thanks for inviting me on. Great show today. Len, you played golf with me last month, and you asked Michael Block and Ken Morton all kinds of questions about their golf game, and my feelings are really hurt. You didn't ask me one question about my golf game, and I'm going to pout about that.
Craig, I forgot. Okay.
It was that memorable, huh?
That was a great.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate that. As always, you keep us informed, you educate us, and you advocate for us. So on behalf of both sections and certainly the golf industry as a whole, thank you to you and Kevin Fitzgerald, Matt Rogers, all the work that you all do on a day-to-day basis on behalf of our great game. So thanks for that. And Lynn, we'll turn it over to you to close her out and let folks know the next time we'll see them.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. So Mr. Morton, thank you. Ken, thank you so much for being with us this morning. And to Michael, congratulations to Michael on his tremendous success of playing nationally, and certainly for the National Award 2022 Player of the Year. Craig, as Nikki mentioned, just helping us sort through the mess that it is sometimes, and making sure we know what we need to know and act appropriately. Nikki, thank you. President Lohman, I know it looks like Eric had to take off. Tom, thank you so much. And I'm sorry that President Lippert was not able to make it this morning. The Pebble Beach team is pretty much hunkered down with the tour right now, with the AT&T coming up in a couple of weeks. So that's where they are. And of course, to Steve, thank you, Bryce and Shelby, for getting us on air. And Nikki, I think that we agreed February 10, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks. We had great attendance today. We hit a 93 at some point of attendance. So thank you all for being there. Again, look out for each other, take care of each other. We did send out an email yesterday, and just in case, hopefully you don't need the PGA Disaster Relief Fund, but it is available should there be some emergencies. And that's what it's for. If you need any information, of course, give us a call, give the Southern California section a call. We can get you pointed in the right direction. Okay, everybody have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe and stay dry, and we'll see you on February 10th. Thank you.
Thanks.